Let's do a coin toss. If it's heads, if it's heads and then tails, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson. If it's tails, then tails, it's Jordan Peterson. We gotta go again. Looks like it's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
I don't want
right,
every one of my
guys.
senses to sound like Barry White.
Is that what it sounds like in your
headphones,
ears?
they do. It's like,
Welcome
oh,
back
baby.
to Clash Royale.
I just can't.
Review
Whereas
my
without the
Clash
headphones,
Royale
I'm just
review.
regular.
All right, ready?
We're gonna be
Good to see you.
Our goal
Hey,
today
what's happening?
is to
Oh.
I'm excited to talk to you.
Get
I'm excited to talk
these
to you about a
two
bunch of things, but
shards that we've
I've been
got
paying attention to
here.
all the Webb telescope.
and also
Oh my gosh.
it's the same as every other
It's all
episode.
that.
If
Could
I
you
lose,
please
the video
explain
ends.
the difference in the ability
get into
of
it,
the
guys.
capabilities of this telescope versus what we've had previously?
Yeah, so first of all, it's all that. And the excitement was in part because so
let's
much
give it a
could
good
have
look.
gone wrong
Let's see
with this thing. And the fact that nothing
what
went
we're going
wrong,
against.
we were ecstatic.
Could you explain how complicated it is
Yeah.
to get something like that?
Yeah, so one of the great challenges that we face is how do you put a telescope in orbit that's bigger than the rocket that's going to launch it? Is that even possible? And the Hubble telescope, do you know what set the size of that? 94-inch diameter mirror? That's the biggest mirror you could fit in the payload of the space shuttle. That's
bad
what set
start
the
for us,
size of
guys.
that telescope. Big as it was, we would have made it bigger if the space shuttle were bigger. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Hubble telescope. There's a replica of it at the Air and Space Museum.
Let's take a photo of it.
And it's there hanging from the ceiling, but if you want to know how, it's about the size of a Greyhound bus. So, the space shuttle deployed a Greyhound bus into orbit, which is the Hubble Space Telescope. And the value of the Hubble was that you could update it with servicing missions, and it was serviced many times. And as a result, it lived within our culture for 3 decades. There are people who came of age only ever knowing the majesty of the universe as delivered to you by the Hubble telescope. 30 years worth of
We
this.
got our
Think about
golem
it.
down.
Most other telescopes, they put into orbit and they
get
have a
this
5-year
push
mission,
going.
and then they
Let's
come
get the
down.
win. First
So they don't
one
have a
of the night.
chance to get inside you,
Get it going.
to become something that you. Oh, you got a nice visual there. So that's the Hubble telescope on the left, which every year, I post a tweet at the end of the Stanley Cup, and I say the Stanley Cup and the Hubble telescope had the same designer.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. No, just look at the thing. It looks like the Stanley Cup.
A little bit.
Just a lot.
I wouldn't confuse the two if they were in a room together.
So, here's the thing. So, notice the Hubble telescope, its diameter is this spherical shape that fits in the spherical payload of the space shuttle. So now we want to put a bigger telescope into orbit. How do you do that? And so this is where you need engineers, clever engineers. We say, here's a rocket, one of the most powerful rockets we can use, but the fairing, that's the place where you hold the payload, can only be so big. And they say, all right, why don't we fold the telescope? Now, how are you going to fold the mirror?
You
Turn the mirror into
First game of the
segments,
night, so win.
hexagons.
love
Hexagons,
to
one of
see it.
only 3 shapes that can tile a surface: a square, a triangle, and a hexagon. No other shape can do this. So, well, you can have other irregular shapes that can match up. That you can tessellate, what it's called. But if you have what's called a regular polygon, so
Good
here
first game. Let's
in the
get
image
into
there,
that
what
one.
you can see, it's all of the mirror segments. Those fold into a narrow structure, along with the unfurling solar
hog.
panels, as well as the heat
Pull 'em over.
shields. Notice it was made at Northrop Grumman. By the way, Grumman has a long history in helping
worth it. That was
NASA
worth
put
it.
stuff in space. The LEM lunar excursion module. Remember that? The thing that landed on the moon? That was designed and built in Bethpage, Long Island at Grumman Aerospace. And so this is, and you go to Bethpage today, people still stand tall because they had aunts and uncles who worked on that project. Space is a force of nature unto itself in our sense of pride, in our sense of achievement, in our sense of what
big start, big
operates
good start.
on civilization
Never
to
mind.
take us into the future, lest we
This guy's
continue
using
to
freeze.
regress and move back into
see
the
that.
cave, which we came. There it is, all folded up in the image we now see for those who are watching this. And you slip that into a fairing, and then you launch it 1,000,000 miles from Earth, opposite the sun from Earth, and it unfurls like petals of a flower.
Is there an animation of how that
Oh yeah,
goes down?
they have slow-mo animation. Sure, he can find it, and it's the deploying,
Let's get our
how
push
it
going.
deployed as it was on its way to its
Can't be
location,
losing
which
the
is one of the
second game.
Lagrangian points in orbit. For every 2 objects that orbit each other, there are 5 Lagrangian points. So here we are unfolding. So there we have solar panels coming out the side, and there's the communication antenna, and it has a unique set of baffles that shield it from sunlight, so that the mirror and the detector can be very, very cold, because it's designed, it's specially
Double
tuned
damage.
to
Total.
observe infrared that comes to us from space. And infrared, as you may know,
that's
we
huge,
normally
that's huge.
associate it with heat. Well, how am I going to detect something that's very, very cold in space if my detector is hotter than what I'm trying to detect? You can't, there's no way to see something that is warmer than the temperature of your detector. So your detector has to be very cold, extremely cold. So these are the baffles, and there are many, many layers. So that when sunlight hits one layer, that layer absorbs it and re-radiates it in both directions, forward and back. So there's less that goes to the next layer. So then the next layer re-radiates it, and by the time it gets to the 4th layer, hardly anything goes towards the telescope. And so it's insulated, and it drops to deep space cold
Nice,
temperatures.
we got another win. That's a GG's.
And it's literally
Let's give him
where
a
the sun
note.
don't shine right now.
So the solar panels are getting the solar
That's
energy
standard.
from the bottom.
Yeah, because that's the direction the sun is,
So
correct?
it radiates off the bottom, and those are the things that protect it. And look, we see how all those layers.
All the layers,
fan
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Amazing.
and it's specifically tuned for the infrared part of the spectrum. You remember the spectrum, so you have like visible light, right? Roy G. Biv, right? If you want to remember it, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Those are the parts of the spectrum we can see. But there's light outside of this. There's like beyond the violet, there's ultraviolet. That's how you get that. And below the red is infrared, not visible to the human eye. By the way, insects can see ultraviolet. We can't. That's why
good,
bug
that's
zappers
good.
work. You put a UV light in a bug zapper, the bugs say, "Oh my gosh, I love ultraviolet," and then they get zapped. And we're old enough to remember before there were bug zappers, you'd had a picnic bulb for twilight picnics, and it's like a yellow bulb, kind of yellow amber bulb. It was a bug bulb. It was sold as bug bulbs. It's not that they repelled bugs; it's that the bugs couldn't even see it because their whole vision is shifted towards the ultraviolet, and it leaves out the deep red. Yeah, so that's evidence we're smarter than bugs.
That's one piece. Luckily,
That's one piece of evidence that we're smarter than bugs. So just to bring that to a closure,
not good at all,
the
guys,
earliest
but-
forming galaxies in the universe radiated a lot of ultraviolet. So you might say, well, let's get an ultraviolet telescope. No, because 14 billion years later, the expansion of the universe has redshifted the ultraviolet into the infrared. So if you want to see the birth of galaxies, you got to know what they look like in the here and the now. And in the here and the now, it's in the infrared. So this is a telescope specifically tuned to see galaxies born at the edge of the universe, and infrared also allows you to see deep into gas clouds.
Now, when they're showing you an image like
So right here, this are the pillars of creation, which were so named at the time Hubble first attempted this. We were gaga over the Hubble image of this. And now, like the JWST, oh my gosh. For those who are more prone to religion, some have called this the hand of God. Because if you look at the pillars, you can kind of picture like a thumb, and fingers, yeah. So, but regardless, this is nearby. This is the telescope peering deep into gas clouds that otherwise would enshroud what's going on. And you get to see stars being born, planets being born. And so what's remarkable about JWST is that to be tuned for the edge of the universe and the birth of galaxies is the same properties you would want to see the birth of stars.
Gotta lock in.
A star is born right in front of your nose that would otherwise be cloaked by gas. And infrared penetrates those clouds and enables you to see it as though the cloud isn't even there. And you already know this because if you're driving through fog, okay, you put on your fog lights. The fog lights are not blue. They're like reddish, amber, okay? That improves your ability to see through the fog. If we could see infrared, that's the kind of light you'd use, then you wouldn't even know the fog was there. That's why self-driving cars will be amazing. It won't matter if it's foggy. You'll be able to see everything. Just give them infrared sensors. The fog is irrelevant. They can drive 100 miles an hour in dense fog, and all the cars will see each other. And they want to change lanes, they tell other cars, I'm going to change lanes. They'll park for them, open up, and we won't get 40,000 deaths a year, as we currently do, from automobile accidents.
Now, how much bigger is this telescope?
So, it's about, so you want to think about collecting area, and I forgot the exact number, something like 8 times around there, more powerful in the sense of it can see things 8 times dimmer. There you go. So that's it's about 2.5 squared. It's about 8 times the area.
And the technology obviously is improved as well. So, like the ability that...
Well, our detectors are better, and let
that's
me
what
remind
I
you
call
that when the
locking
Hubble was
in,
designed,
guys.
it was designed in like
That's
the
what we like to
1980s.
see. I was
It
not
was
letting
scheduled
the
to go
video
up,
end.
and then we had the Challenger
Jeez,
accident.
next game.
And that delayed the shuttle program. So there's Hubble sitting there in mothballs with an old Microsoft chip. And by the time it launched, it was already not as fast as it could have been. And so the very first servicing mission swapped all that out and put in better methods and tools for measuring what it is we always needed it to do. So one sad part about this is that it's not serviceable. We have no access to that point in space 1 million miles from the moon. We haven't left low Earth orbit since 1972. We're not going out 1 million miles from Earth to fix a telescope. So that's unfortunate. Maybe a robotic fix, I don't know, to refill some of the fuel. It needs fuel to station keep.
Didn't it get hit by a micrometeor?
Yeah, well, that's the brakes when you're in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't affect the overall performance.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's huge, and the micrometers will do small damage, but you don't want it in the middle of a meteor storm. That would be
right.
Totally bad.
And do they? I mean, they obviously know like where some of the asteroid belts are and where some of the nearby Earth objects are.
Yeah. So in this context, so first, most asteroids are in the asteroid belt. So that's between Mars and Jupiter. So I have an asteroid named after me.
Congratulations.
I don't mean to brag or anything.
Can't you like get a star named after you online?
Not authentically.
You just get robbed. You just pretend.
They'll send you a map with your name drawn in the map.
See paper, piece of paper.
Yeah, they claim that it gets registered with the astrophysicists, but it doesn't. No, there's only one way we name stars, and that's by committee and by traditions and this sort of thing. They're fascinating traditions. So planets are named after Roman gods, and planet moons are named after Greek characters in the life of the Greek god, who's the counterpart to that Roman god. Wow. So Jupiter, for example, one of its moons is Ganymede. Ganymede was the manservant of Zeus, and Zeus and Jupiter were corresponding gods in Greek and Roman. And not only that, what's the number? Is it about half, somewhere around there, of all the stars in the night sky that have names have Arabic names. So in my field, we have deep respect for people who made great inroads into understanding the natural universe. And the golden age of Islam from 1,000 years ago made material contributions in this regard. And, of course, Greek and Roman legends and this sort of thing. So there they are in its influence on Western culture. So, yeah, no, the universe is a fun place.
Pretty fun place.
Hell yeah.
So this James Webb Telescope, in terms of its ability to recognize things, like what magnitude of improvement are we talking about from the
factor
the Hubble?
10. Yeah, about a factor of 10. Yeah, easily. That's right. Well, a factor of 10 for the things Hubble could see, but it's incalculable when it sees things that Hubble could have never seen, because Hubble was not tuned for the infrared. So then you can't even compare it. It's a complete other window opened up to the universe for you.
So what has changed in terms of our understanding? The Webb has been in the million-mile orbit, or however far away it is, for how long now?
Well, it got there, and then we did some engineering. So I guess a year and a half. Yeah.
And what has changed in our understanding?
So that's been people's first question. And what I want to do is temper that to say something a little different. So, yes, we expect James Webb to make great discoveries. We expect that. But the first order of business is hardly ever, let's discover something new today. It's, here's something that we have limited understanding of. Let's improve on that. And in so doing, we deepen our understanding of how things work in the universe. That doesn't always involve overturning a previous idea or discovering something that nobody ordered. All right? That will happen. We fully expect that to happen. But we targeted parts of the sky initially because we know other telescopes have gone there before. And we're going to say, how can we further advance and deepen our understanding? One thing it's going to be able to do, and it has already done, we have, you know how many exoplanets there are? I don't know how many of your audience was born after 1995. How many 27-year-olds in there?
Probably quite a few.
Quite a few, okay. So I will take this opportunity to knight them Generation exoplanet. 1995 was the first exoplanet discovered, a planet orbiting another star. And I'll never forget that because it was my first time on national television. I was freshly minted as director of the Hayden Planetarium in New York City. And NBC sent in New York City, this is the media news headquarters, right, of all the networks. So NBC sent an action cam. They interviewed me because of my title, not because they knew or gave a crap who I was. My title was Director of the Planetarium. And so I gave my best professorial reply. I said, well, it's the Doppler shift. This is how it's discovered and what we do and how we measure it. And I was describing the fact that when you discover these planets, you don't actually see the planet. You see the effect of the planet's gravity on the host star. And so if you watch the host star like jiggles, okay, just a little bit in response to the planet going back and forth around it. So you're measuring the star. So I motioned that like with my hips. And that evening on the evening news, that's all they showed was me jiggling my hips. I said, oh my God. Okay, that's how you're going to do this. Okay. You don't want me to be Professor Neil. You want me to be Soundbite Neil. All right, so from then on, I practiced my sound bites. Okay, and a soundbite's like 3 sentences.
Oh, so you recognize that this is the format now.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't just give them my stump speech as professor of astrophysics. It has to work in their medium. And so I went home and stood in front of the mirror and had people just shout out things to me. Anything in the universe, any idea, object, person, place, or thing. And I would come up with like 3 sentences that are interesting, make you smile, and be tasty enough to want to tell someone else the anatomy of a soundbite. So try it. Say anything in the whole universe.
How do we know how...
No, just one word. Just say anything.
The Big Bang.
Big Bang. Ooh. The birth of space-time energy and everything we know and love about this universe. Occurred 14 billion years ago. and we have no idea what happened before it. And we're still expanding, as we will forever.
I read an article.
Yeah, guys,
That's my soundbite. for
That's
the Big
good.
Bang.
It's a good soundbite.
Yeah.
I read an article about the Webb telescope, and what they were taking into consideration is the possibility that the Big Bang may be incorrect,
Unless we
and
pull
that
something
the
crazy
universe
out
might
right
be
now.
larger and older than we think.
So,
I'm trying to refound
I hesitate to ask what pages on the internet you hang out on.
You know what,
It was
guys?
a like
Okay.
a legit. It wasn't saying the universe is older.
I'm not
It's
gonna
saying
let
as
it come.
more data and new information comes in, there is a distinct possibility that the Big Bang might just be it just might explain the reach of the technology and not the actual scale of the universe itself.
Okay, so the way to think about this is, and this is the way science has worked since
man.
basically the year 1600, where Galileo sort of starts
It
codifying
wasn't a long video,
what people
but
knew probably should be happening, but no one
did
really
get
did
the
it
shard.
on large scale. If you have an idea about
let's
something,
get
then you
our
test
rewards.
it. Multiple.
So let's get our rewards real quick. Nice, guys. Well, oh yeah, we can get this shard too. We got our shards. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys in the next Clash Royale review.